Welcome to Northlandia, a place to bring you curiosity because here you'll find curiosities. I'm Wyatt Buckner with the Duluth News Tribune, and I will be your guide as we discover the unique and fascinating stories here in the Northland. Here we celebrate the region's distinctive people, places, and history. In this episode, we look into some of the unique inventions to come from Duluth. Let's venture forth into Northlandia. Digging into the past of Northland inventions, I'm joined again by reporter Jimmy Lovrien. Jimmy, it's good to have you back.
Hello, Wyatt.
So, Jimmy, what gave you the idea or perhaps possessed you to think of the topic of inventions for this week's Northlandia? Like, I doubt you just woke up one morning and just said, Eureka, I'm going to go to the library and investigate Duluth patents.
Correct, I did not. I got the idea from the library. I was over there, so our microfilm issues of both the Duluth News Tribune and Herald are over there, going back the whole time. I mean, everything is on microfilm there. And so what we don't have digitized, there's a pretty big gap between the 20s and the 90s that aren't digitized. And so for that, you got to pull out the microfilm. And so I was over there, and they've got biography files about notable Duluthians or people in the news that you can pull where they've got all the clippings in, and it's really helpful. And so I was over there for a vault story and was talking to one of the reference librarians about Northlandia and said how, sometimes it's history, sometimes it's cork, sometimes it's quirky history, whatever. And she said, well, you should pull our patents file. There's some weird things in there, or interesting things in there. And I was like, I think I'm going to have to. So last week I did and had some good finds. I used that, but I also used Google Patents, which you can search all the patents. It's a little easier than the U.S. government's patent office website. So you can just, I was just searching Duluth and going to oldest to newest and Duluth, and I put in a keyword that I thought maybe would bring up some weird inventions, and I found a few.
Just a few. Part of me kind of wishes that that suggestion made you sound kind of like the creepy librarian voice of oh, you should see what they have. It's interesting.
Right. Yeah.
It's almost like a beckoning to
exactly. It was like
discover the depths of Northlandia.
Right. The way it was said was oh no, you gotta pull the patents file. I was like, I think I do. The way that was said, I knew something interesting had to be in there.
That's definitely the phrase of someone that once you know, you know. If
right.
you know.
Exactly.
So before we get into the strange inventions you uncovered, let's talk a little bit more about the more known inventions that come out of Duluth. Because when I read through your article, you threw in one of the first paragraphs is there's some more known inventions, and I didn't know about any of them, especially pizza rolls.
Yes, pizza rolls invented in Duluth as under they were originally Gino pizza rolls. Gino Palucci, a canned food and Chinese food businessman. His company was first to develop them, and so that's where pizza rolls came from. Gino Palucci makes a appearance later here, but most of the inventions of his are food processing, food packaging kind of type stuff. So pizza rolls right up there, though he didn't personally make them. But yeah, so that is our claim to fame here. And then there are a few others. So Alexander Miles, I didn't know about him, but I should have. So he was a black inventor who in 1887 filed a patent for an elevator door that could open and close. So he didn't file a patent for the elevator. That existed, but his contribution was doors that open and close, make something safer and everything. And he was from Duluth or lived in Duluth at the time. And so that was really interesting. I kind of went down a little bit of a rabbit hole. He's celebrated as a black inventor who and at the time was very well respected too. So I thought that was really interesting. And then there's Alexander McDougall, who, ran the shipbuilding company over what's now the Spirit Lake Marina, which has made a few appearances in Northlandia because the end of it's in Wisconsin. But anyway, used to be a shipbuilding company, and he has a few dozen patents regarding different ship type technologies, ships themselves. I saw a torpedo in there of his, and some iron mining related processes kind of stuff too. So yeah, those are a lot of the kind of the early or kind of some of the notable ones. There are others, but those kind of came to mind and stuck out as I think things people, well, maybe not you, but people kind of know about, or at least.
Yeah, I mentioned it to my wife, and she's like, the pizza rolls one. She's like, yeah, I think I heard that. I'm like, how had I not heard this? What the heck? Apparently I don't know my pizza roll history.
Right.
But the shipping one, that feels like Duluth. That one that makes sense given, our shipping industry here, long established history of that in our area. But the pizza rolls and an elevator door, that's those are things that we're all familiar with as a product, but do we all know that's from Duluth? Or
Right.
at least the patent was?
Exactly.
I certainly didn't.
Right.
Surprised we don't claim the pizza rolls fame more. We're so obsessed with Bob Dylan and such that
I
we
know.
forget about pizza rolls. All right, so now that we've talked about the known inventions, let's move into the other ones you discovered.
So, so on Google Patents, I found an animated artificial animal. And what caught me was I was scrolling through it and I saw a cow, kind of just it's a small image of the patent drawings, and I pressed it so it'd get bigger, and it wasn't just a cow, it was a person in a cow costume, like their legs are the hind legs of the cow, and then they're leaning forward, and the kind of the frame of the cow's body is also like kind of harnessed them in and supporting them as they lean forward, and then their hands are holding like extenders. Those are the front legs. And then, so if that's not complicated enough, it's also on ice skates.
And that feels Duluth.
Right.
That checks out.
And so I wasn't sure really what, I'm like, the feet of this cow look like skates. And then I'm reading the patent, and it's like, oh yeah, sure enough, this is meant for entertainment purposes and can be used on skate, and so this whole idea of Frank E. Sullivan of Duluth, he wanted to fix that problem of those, two-person animal costumes you see on TV shows. One person is the hind legs, one's the front legs.
A very common problem. Yeah, sure.
Yes, exactly. He thought those didn't look realistic. So he set out to fix it, and I wanted to know more about Frank E. Sullivan. This was his only patent that I could find. And then I found a 1933 photo of the Superior Curling and Skating Club, and he is on there as a skating instructor, which I think is probably him. I don't know how many Frank E. Sullivans there were in the 30s that were in the skating world here in the Twin Ports. And then I looked on our online archives, which again kind of end in the 20s, and I found another Frank Sullivan, not Frankie Sullivan, but Frank Sullivan, who won an award in 1922 at the Duluth Curling Club he won first award as wearer of the most elaborate costume. And so I bet that's our guy. Mm-hmm. Just sounds like, the guy who would design a cow on ice may have won, 15 years earlier or so, or, most elaborate costume. So didn't say what the costume was, though.
Yeah, so we don't know if it was indeed the cow. Do we know at all if this was ever produced? Like, there's one thing to have a patent, right, but to actually, create and use the item is a whole other matter.
It was not in the patents file at the library, and unfortunately the 30s are kind of this, I can't search, I'd have to go through each daily paper to find it. I guess maybe I could have started with kind of the dates around when the patent was, but I didn't go that far. I mean, it'd be sure would be nice if those were digitized, because then I could, Control F his name or something and find it and see if it was made. But I don't know. I would imagine he probably played around with something in his garage or shed or something, but whether or not that made it on ice, I don't know.
And if you're just listening to the podcast, I encourage you to go check out the article, because we do have a diagram of it in the article, and it looks exactly like it sounds. It's a diagram of a cow with skates at the bottom, and it's like the person's in the back, like awkwardly holding these like lengthy poles of sorts with skates at the end that make up the front legs.
Right.
Which I'm so curious about the functionality of that, of how,
I know.
Like, I consider myself a pretty good skater, and I'm pretty coordinated. I don't know how comfortable I feel with that.
Right.
That looks a little on the sketchy side.
Yeah, I don't know how the frame would have to be really strong, and I don't know how the physics of that would work. I'm so confused by it. So if someone wants to go and build it, let me know. I'll cheer you on. But if someone builds it, I want to know how that goes.
Is the patent still good on that, or does that expire?
Yeah, that's expired a while ago. So
anyone can take it as their own now.
I think so. I don't really know patent law, so don't quote me. This is not any advice, but I don't think they last that long, and especially for something from 1930, was it 38? I think you're good.
I mean, my extended patent law is Shark Tank, so
right, exactly.
All right, so tell me about the other ones.
Okay, so
the next one's kind of an interesting one.
This one's So this I found in the Duluth Library's patent file, and I don't know if this is what the reference librarian was referring to or not. There were some other odds and ends in there, but this one was the weirdest. So
It's certainly something.
Yes, a woman who's a 1977 graduate of Duluth East High School and a University of Minnesota alumna, and her friend invented nipple enhancers called body perks. And they are made to help your nipples look erect under clothing. So, yes, they are rubber, and you put them on. And this was in 2001. So, as the lead in the story at the time, and the News Tribune noted, it was, Jennifer Aniston on Friends, and all these different things were kind of, popular at the moment. And anyway, these things took off. They went to the Sturgis motorcycle rally and gave away 1,000 of them. And then she sent them to a bunch of news organizations in the country. And so it got coverage from the Chicago Tribune and attention from Newsweek and Playboy and Playgirl. And ultimately it landed on an episode of Sex and the City. So I don't watch that show. I don't know what it didn't get, body perks were not mentioned by name, but apparently they played a role kind of in the plot of an episode or a mention or somehow they were in the episode as, and that's kind of the height of body perks, the nipple enhancer. But, so the two, Lori and Julia that did this, it ultimately led to them hosting a radio show in the Twin Cities. So, if you're ever listening to My Talk 107.1, they've got a talk show on that. So it seems to be no longer in business. The website's no longer there. And then their Body Perks Inc. Dissolved in 2016, according to business filings. So yeah, that's an odd one.
But that one actually sold
yes.
some. That they were circulated in the world.
This wasn't just a patent that was filed. Someone's idea was filed. This was an idea that, I think the patent actually came after some of the attention they got. So it was kind of an invention
Probably.
first, patent later.
Yeah. That seems pretty common usually.
Yeah.
Again, based off of my Shark Tank knowledge.
Exactly.
A lot of times they'll make the product, they'll sell the product, proof of concept, and then they'll patent it to protect it,
right.
afterwards.
Right.
Again, not an expert.
Yeah. So that seems to be one with Northland Roots that, and then that actually, made it for a bit. So yeah, and a little odd, but hey.
I mean, I feel like my first reaction was the timing kind of works out because I was just thinking about this the other day because there's not really good context for it, but I was looking through old movies from the 2000s and the 1990s. I tell you what, that era was a vibe. And I feel like this invention kind of fits that vibe a little bit.
I think so. I don't know if it would be successful today or not, but at the time, yeah, I guess so.
And I don't know how successful they were, but I mean, to make it to 2016 or something, that's a lengthy amount of time.
I think the good quote, the quote that we had in the 2001 article about them, if nothing else, at least we invented something. At least we made it work. We made the whole world talk about nipples for a while.
Well, that is definitely an accomplishment. And now moving on to something that's maybe a little less weird to talk about, but still odd. I would say of the three, this is the most dad invention. A dad, this is something a dad would make. Not that my dad necessarily would use this, but I could see my dad I have a great idea, and it's this.
Right. So yes, back to Gino Paolucci. I was trying to find the patent for pizza rolls, and so I was searching different names and stuff, and I guess I couldn't ultimately find the Duluth one, if there was one for the Duluth pizza roll. I maybe didn't spend enough time searching, but anyway, so when I was looking for Gino Paolucci, and there's tons of food processes and stuff like that under his name, I came across one that is not food related, and that is the Golf Aid. So the idea is you have a golf glove that has a patch on it, and it tells you how to swing your club. Just some reminders on how to, swing a club. It says, so just think of a glove and then a patch on it that says, remember, feet firm, head down, left arm firm, slow back swing, eye on ball, follow through. And that's how you swing a golf club.
So just to be clear, it's not actually aiding you with anything literally or physically. It's like a reminder guide to you.
Exactly. It is, I guess, if you step up to the tee and are, overcome with nerves and forget how to swing a club, you can look at your hands and it will tell you what to do. I mean, I don't know. I don't golf, but maybe it is helpful for people who are learning. I don't mean to totally make fun of it, but it was just odd, especially that it was under Gino Paolucci's name. I just thought it was kind of a one-off one, but from what I understand, he also spent a lot of time in Florida and had been developing a gated kind of community that's surrounded a golf course. So I think from what I understand, he liked golf, and so maybe it was a passion project. Again, don't know if it was made. I mean, it'd be pretty easy to make. But again, the 80s are kind of a tough spot for our archives because none of that has been digitized. And so, again, I don't know if he made it. I couldn't find anything online right now about it. So, but it was the only golf that I could find, the only golf-related Gino Paolucci invention. So, yeah. So he's you can credit him with canned food, pizza rolls, and the golf aid.
Now, I know you said you don't golf, so you don't really feel you make fun of it. I do golf. I can make fun of this. And I would definitely consider myself in the novice category. I'm not a very avid golfer. My family is. I'm still relatively new to it. I wouldn't use this. And I feel like I don't need a reminder of all those things. The struggles with golf are way beyond those simple. It's like turning the club, or like there's just so many nuances that you need way more help than just those few steps.
I was gonna say, I think some of them are a little too basic, but
they're very basic. Like I don't know what you're doing if you need those reminders. There's other things I feel like that you could be reminded of.
Right.
It's such an intricate sport that's, I don't know. It's weird. This is something like I kind of wish I had shown my dad this because I'm curious what his thoughts on it would be. Because this is something I definitely don't think he'd ever use this, but I could see him like making it for somebody like if he was trying to teach me how to golf or something. Look at this. I made this glove for you that has all the reminders in case you forget.
Right.
Not that my dad sounds like that, but it just feels like the thing a dad would do, maybe in like a Disney show or something.
Yeah, exactly. Their big idea that they've been working on at all hours of the night in the basement or something. So I'm looking at this, and I think it's on the patches on the back of the glove, and I'm pretending to hold a golf club, but I'm wondering if I could even see it if I was holding a golf club.
Probably not, honestly.
I guess, I don't know. I'm trying to kind of, and again, I don't golf, so maybe I'm holding my hands wrong, but.
Because if you're right-handed, you'd have the glove on your left hand, and so you have to turn it over.
Yeah, that's like on the back side. So you'd have to look at this when you're getting ready. It's not like it's not like you're reading it as you're about to swing or something.
Well, it could be like a checklist. You go up there, set in place. Am I good? Look down at it, and be like,
right.
Okay, I got that. All right, and move this. Okay, I got that. All right, and I'm gonna do my slow swing. Pull your arm back down. Look at it again. That's where things get a little weird at that point.
Right. I think if you're trying to read it and swing a golf club, you're not gonna have a very good. You're not gonna hit the ball very well.
Yeah, it's one of those sports that I feel like it's almost counterintuitive because it's one of those games where you kind of have to free your mind a bit and not overthink, because the more you think, the more you're gonna mess things up. At least from my experience. Maybe everyone else's experience is different. Maybe this was helpful to him. I don't know. As far as we know, we don't know if it was made or not. So who knows if it helped anybody?
Exactly.
Except help us give content for this podcast. So that's something. Right. You gifted something.
It's too bad it didn't get big because Gino Paolucci, he could have been something with this.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's no pizza rolls, that's for sure. I mean, in your research, did you say what about it is patented? Because how do you patent a patch you put on a glove?
This would be a question for a patent law expert. I guess I don't know if someone were to do this, throw a patch on the back of a glove with reminders that might, maybe they would have a claim that, hey, you stole my idea. I guess I don't really know. I guess it's the glove's already there. Patches are patches, but then I guess if you combine the two in a certain way, it's unique. Again, I have no idea. Yeah.
And you know what? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe listeners, if you're an avid golfer and you think there's a use for this, let us know. Right. Check out the article and see the diagram and see if that'd be helpful. And if you think so, I mean, how old is that patent now? It's probably maybe expired.
80s, so I think
it might be expired. We don't know what the actual lengths are, but you could.
I think, yeah. It's a 1976 patent.
Okay.
And then I think if you go on Google Patents, and I link to all these, you can click on it and see when they expire, and so you can see when they were applied for, when they were granted, and then when they were when they expire. So you've got. It's a pretty helpful resource and kind of fun to look at. And I find that the older the patent, the more unique and interesting. There's a lot of new patents for Duluth that are probably very important and technical and great. It's like scientific processes, and it's by researchers, and it's it's no artificial animal on skates.
No, nothing like that.
It's real stuff. It's important inventions that mean something, and advanced science, whereas, the 100 years ago was just the golden era of weird stuff that people patented.
Mm-hmm. And so those are the three you focused on in the article. So I encourage you listeners to check out the article, see some of those diagrams and images. They definitely add a lot more context to what we're talking about here. But what were some of the other inventions you came across during your research? The ones that maybe weren't as weird or notable, or you couldn't find as much information on to go as in deep in your article.
There's this doll invention that just looked weird, and it was from the 20s or 30s, and it was like a sewn fabric stuffed doll that looked kind of just like a potato, but it was, the whole idea was that it was unbreakable, and I kind of thought it was weird. But that was one that actually made it and kind of was taking off because I found a newspaper article in our system about it. And so this is a young woman, or sewed these together, and they kind of took off as just kind of, I suppose they were kind of like stuffed animals, but they were humans but looked like potatoes.
Human potatoes.
Yeah. So that was 100 or so years ago. There was one invention. There was like a jailer or someone who was upset that they read about an invention in Philadelphia, I think, or something. Anyway, somewhere else in the country, some other jailer had patented kind of like a taser for the era. This is again like 100 years ago, where it was like if there was a prisoner behaving badly and they needed to restrain or get control of them, they were wearing what sounded like a big battery on their waist, and they would be wearing rubber gloves so they could, I guess, not get shocked. And then they would get a hold of the person and shock them with their battery belt apparatus. And then anyway, this jailer was kicking himself because he had an idea, and he had that idea a while ago, and he had been playing with different ways to make it work, and dang, he just had to happen to read it in the paper that someone else in the country, got a patent for it or something like that. There was a lot of like rodent traps patented, which are all kind of like no-brainers, it's just
a different kind of mouse trap, essentially.
Yeah, well, one of them was, and I liked the diagram because it showed the mouse heading into the bucket of water, but it was kind of like one, I think it's kind of pretty standard. People do something like they balance something on top of a bucket of water, and like the mouse or rodent will go on top and fall in and can't get out. It seems kind of very cruel, but that's like a thing people do. Not endorsing it, but someone patented that. Basically like a lever that when the rodent walked out, it would, fall into the bucket. And so it's kind of like, well, that's kind of a thing, but I guess if you add your twist to it, you can patent it.
A little more grim, but if it was the context of a Tom and Jerry's, it'd be more slapstick.
Right. There were board games. I don't understand how they're played, but there were board games invented in Duluth. The rules weren't very well spelled out and the boards were, I didn't make sense of it, but board games that were invented here.
Didn't realize you could patent a board game.
Me either. There's a lot of things. Yeah. So there are just odds and ends, things that made sense for the time. A lot of mining and logging equipment, heavy machinery.
See, those make sense given the industries in the area. It's those bizarre ones that are like kind of eyebrow raising a little bit, or even pizza rolls a bit of an eyebrow raise. Like, really in Duluth?
Yeah.
All right, Jimmy. So we've talked about many different weird ideas here. I thought it'd be fun to ask if you have one. If not, don't worry about it. But did you ever have any weird invention ideas growing up that you would maybe throw in the pile of weird ideas?
Growing up, yeah.
Everyone does.
I mean, I was very imaginative. Obviously, none of these would work, but I remember I thought I could make a helicopter, and the blades were going to be hockey sticks. So like,
the
rotors
that would take off in Duluth pretty well.
Yeah, exactly. Like I had like a bucket of little batteries and wires and like little motors from Radio Shack. They're like the size of your thumb or something like that, and you can put little things on it. I was like, oh yeah, I'll just attach two big hockey sticks to this, and I'll have a helicopter. That didn't work. Yeah, there were other things like that, usually regarding planes and rockets and RC cars that I really thought were gonna be something, and a lot of drawings of things, a lot of, I used a lot of balsa wood, like you can, lightweight wood, you can kind of craft things out of to make things, whether or not they're inventions, I don't know, but I had an imagination at that time, and, but I can't credit to, inventing anything.
Right. I mean, filing a patent's a whole other, less imaginative and fun process, especially when you're a kid. But, that's a pretty common thing when you're a kid, like you come up weird ideas all the time.
Exactly. I think one time I made I also a lot of balsa wood, foam, and bamboo skewers. You could do anything with all those. I made a pontoon. Okay, Dasani water bottles.
Okay.
Are the pontoons, and then out of bamboo skewers, I made a frame that would hold, again, one of those little motors from Radio Shack, and those would be hooked up to a battery, and I got a propeller, like a real one, not hockey sticks, and they're only like 3 inches long or whatever, and I put that on it, and then that would blow the air. It was a propeller for the air, and that was going to push it forward. And I think we tried it, and so I tied like a cord to it and then put it in a lake, and it went 15 feet until the rope or string was extended all the way, and that was it. But that one was cool. That worked.
Yeah, it worked for 15 feet. Like that's something.
The next step was making it a remote control, but my 9-year-old, that was a little too technical for a 9-year-old.
It's very possible though that got further in use than 2 of the inventions we talked about today.
Very true.
As far as we know.
Exactly.
As far as we know.
Yeah, if anyone knows of any of these, maybe they own a golf aid in their, and use it regularly, let us know. Or if you're aware if any of these were built, let us know. And if there are any other weird inventions, maybe that have Northland roots that you're aware of, let us know.
Well, I'd say that your imagination and inventions were definitely, at least you remember more than I did from my past. My only contribution to that right now is in 4th grade. Like, I think it was for science fair or something. We made a snowball catapult. Oh. Which I feel like that's a lot of people's ideas of anyone who grew up where there's snow. But we actually built one. Like at least with my friend's dad probably did the actual contracting work in terms of the hard labor. But we reaped the fun of it with launching the catapult. It wasn't that effective because you could just easily dodge it. It's pretty obvious when it's coming, but it's just the presence was cool. We took 2nd place.
Yeah.
Well, at the Miller Hill Mall,
oh yeah, they did do that.
Yeah. We made it all the way to there. Got 2nd. I think it was 2nd place. I don't know. It was 4th grade. I don't remember it that well.
And then did it get confiscated when you started loading it with ice?
No, we didn't. We did this in our neighborhood. We didn't do it on school grounds or near any public place. But you don't tell my parents about that.
Yeah.
They weren't privy to that aspect of it. All right, Jamie. Before we wrap it up, was just to bring this all home. Why do you feel like this was a good choice for Northlandia? Like, this is very much a different story take to bring this time around.
Yeah, I think it's got elements of history, which I like to do for Northlandia. I don't want to only do that, but it's got obviously elements of history. We're using our archives, and then the weird factor. Yeah. That fits Northlandia, and so I think combining those, it hopefully something readers can enjoy and maybe take their own curiosity and go on to Google Patents and find something weird, or maybe they are inspired and invent a cow on skates that actually works.
I feel like this definitely fit well with the idea of come wonder with us. Come wonder why someone came up with these, and wonder why did I not know that pizza rolls were made in Duluth.
Exactly.
I'm really stuck on that. All right, Jay, we'll wrap it up there. Thank you so much for joining us again.
Yeah, thanks, Wyatt. We'll see you soon.
And thank you for joining us on this venture into Northlandia. To read the article for this week's column, as well as see archival photos, visit duluthnewstribune.com/topics/Northlandia. You can find all the episodes of Northlandia on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. If you or someone you know has a unique story that you believe can have a place here in Northlandia, let us know by emailing northlandia@duluthnew's.com. Join us again next week and discover the extraordinary stories that you just might miss if you're on the right place at the right time. Race up off the beaten path in the rush to return, here in Northlandia.